Hi folks, and welcome to your Recruitment and Selection 2 week of your new topic, which is Management of People, or HR is what other people refer to as Human Resources Management. Now, apologies for any sort of sound in the background. There's some work happening outside at my house and it can't be helped, unfortunately. But hopefully it won't deter too much from the sound quality of this video. So, we are going to look a bit more about the selection process today. We looked a bit about recruitment last week and we're now going on to selection. So let's get started. Now, I'm going to start us off by actually talking through a question and talking through possible solutions for it as well. So the question that we have got here is all organisations must consider their human resources. Describe the benefits of human resources planning, so workforce planning. Now, this was mentioned in the video last week. Go back and watch it again to refresh your memory on it because it will come up in exams. It's a very popular question. Now, as we can see, the command word on this question is describe. So way back at the start, and I'm going to post it up again for you just so you'll know where it is, we went through how to answer each command word. I'm sure I've got a worksheet of how each of them are described as well, so I'll send that out to everyone too. So go back and have a look at what we need to write and how we need to talk if we're talking about a describe question. So let's have a look at some possible answers. So possible solutions could be HR or human resource planning contributes to achieving organisational objectives. That would get you a mark. Another benefit is it is essential in keeping up to date with changing patterns of employment and enabling organisations to take action if changing to staffing levels, contracts and working practices are needed. Now you're all talking about the one thing in that point, so you are just getting 1 mark for that point because it's not talking and it's not going too much in depth, so that is just a mark for that point. The skills required for future jobs in the organisation is considered part of HR planning, and this will ensure that the organisation has the necessary skilled people to do the jobs. So you're seeing a description about what the benefit is, and then you're seeing how it benefits the company as well in 2 halves of that mark. So there's another mark for you. Another benefit could be, if necessary, training programs can be introduced to meet changing job requirements. So you can introduce that in your workforce planning. HR can put together training sessions for you. Another point could be without HR planning, organisations could waste money on unnecessary or ineffective resources, but HR planning should avoid this. Now you'd probably get the mark for saying it could waste money on unnecessary or ineffective resources, but the question does specifically say benefits, so putting on the but HR planning should avoid this changes that answer into a benefit, so that's where you're going to get the mark there for that point. Now, these exam style questions are going to be posted up on your Teams page as an assignment for this week, so have a go and attempt these questions. The slides from and the video from last week shall help you with this. Now, I'm going to just talk briefly quickly through them. For question 1, describe the changing patterns of employment that have occurred in the UK during the last 20 years and the implications they have had on business organisations. So, you need to go back to last week's video because I talked about the changes in workforce patterns and how the changes of employment have happened over the last few years. You will get the answers in that. It's quite clearly described and quite clearly pointed out on the slides. So it's worth 6 marks. So I would say go for 3 of them. Choose 3, describe 3 changing patterns of employment, and then the second half of the question says that talk about the implications they have had on business organisations. So I would like you to describe one and then say how has that impacted a business. And then that's where you'll get your 2 marks. 1 mark for describing it and another mark for developing it. Question 2. Discuss the effects on an organisation of employing staff on temporary contracts. Now, I'm leaving that one up to you. So remember your discuss, you can give advantages, disadvantages, or just sort of persuasive answers to try and give somebody information about something. Now, I've not specifically gave you information about temporary contract working, but I imagine everybody listening to this could tell me what a temporary contract is. It's obviously someone who's been employed, but their contract is maybe only for, say, 6 months, or it's maybe only for seasonal. They've just got people in working in over Christmas, things like that. So using your own knowledge, and I'm going to tell you to go to BBC Bite Size for Higher Business because you will get information on this as well. Or if you have studied admin recently or you've done admin with me, you'll know the answer to this. Effects on the organisation of employing staff on temporary contracts. Why is it a good thing? Why is it maybe a bad thing? You can talk about either. You can persuade either side. Have a go at that. Use some of your own information. And lastly, discuss internal and external recruitment, 6 marks. Again, discuss, be persuasive, give advantages, give benefits, give disadvantages, give costs, and you will get that information from last week's video. So these 3 questions are going to go up on an assignment. No need to do them separately and write them on a bit of paper. You will see them on the assignments as they come up on the page. Now, let's do a little recap. So if you've done National 5 before, this should be slightly familiar. Selection is all about, or selection of staff involves looking at the details of all the people who have applied and choosing the person who has the right qualities or the best qualities to suit the post. So you want to start off by shortlisting candidates. And I'll be going through application forms, going through CVs and reading references from previous employers and trying to shorten it down so you've only got a small group of people to interview. And then you're going to bring them in probably to interview. Could be one-on-one, could be a panel interview as well. So there's maybe 5 or 6 people who already work in the company who are going to be there and they'll be asking questions. Or it could be successive and there could be many people in the one interview, almost like a group interview. And depending on the type of job, you might get tests for that job. So especially if you want to join things like the army, etc., obviously you'll have to go through fitness tests and medical tests to make sure you're fit and healthy and you're able to do it. Depending on the level of intensity, you might have to do some aptitude or intelligence tests. I know for a fact that when I applied for my job in the finance department of the company I used to work for, they had me sit a kind of maths and English test just to make sure that me claiming I had higher maths and English, it showed when I applied for it. So I wasn't just writing that on my CV and saying I had it. And you can also get invited to go to something called an assessment centre. So all the potential candidates come along. You get put into random groups. You might have to do some sort of kind of team building challenges while people from the office or people from that business walk around and sort of judge you, see how you work in a group, take notes on you, see how you lead a team, how do you encourage teamwork within that group and things like that. So just taking it in a bit more detail now. So your step 1 is the first stage of selection process is to read and consider all applicants. Each individual will have their own reasons for discounting some candidates. They might not have enough qualifications, they might lack experience, they might have really poorly filled in their application form, there might be spelling mistakes in it, so that's why you really need to look over them very carefully so you know you've not made any mistakes because it will just look poorly on you. Then the shortlisted candidates will be taken on to the next stage. This is where we will have our interviews. So you've got your one-to-one, like I said. Successive interviews might be conducted by different interviewers. So if you think of in The Apprentice, when they start to go to the interview stage and all of Alan Sugar's kind of right-hand people who he advises and who or he gets advice from in the business world, they interview all his potential candidates and then all feed back to him to say their opinions on these different people. Or it could be a panel interviewing a single candidate, or it could be a panel interviewing a group of candidates. Interviews allow candidates to be compared based upon their responses to specific questions. All candidates are asked the same questions to keep it fair. An interview can give an indication of an employee's personality. However, some candidates can perform poorly in interview situations. I know I get extremely nervous when I'm getting interviewed for anything, and I really don't feel it portrays me as a person. So a lot of time in teaching interviews, you can get interviewed for a job, but then you can also be asked to teach like a mini lesson to a random group of students, and I feel that's where I shine. I can teach, I can stand up and talk to children, I can stand up and do that lesson, but put me in an interview, a really formal situation, and I get extremely nervous, and it just doesn't reflect me properly. So some people thrive on it, they love being interviewed and asked questions and being put on the spot, whereas it's just not me as a person. The next step could be testing. So each type of test will assess a different aspect of the applicants. There could be psychometric tests that assess an applicant's personality. There is no correct answer, but the answers chosen help to build a picture of the person. And I have actually given you a link in one of our assignments this week, and we are going to take part in a psychometric test. You might be given aptitude tests to assess the natural abilities of applicants on their skills required for the job, for example, numeracy tests like I mentioned. IQ tests assess the mental capability of the applicant. Applicant scores can be compared at the end of the test. You could be given medical tests that are required for some professions, for example, the emergency services, the armed forces, flight stewards, etc., to find out if the applicant has any medical issues which may impact their ability to perform duties of the job. Attainment tests, such as typing tests, are used to allow applicants to demonstrate specific skills. Attainment tests can prove whether or not an applicant really can type 60 words per minute. So you could say that in your CV or your application form, but most businesses will test you on that so you can prove that you can actually do it. And like we mentioned as well, you might get taken to assessment centres, and they allow an organisation to see applicants undertaking a variety of tasks in different scenarios and situations. They may take place over a couple of days, and the organisation watches each applicant closely to see if they are suited to the job and the company. Assessment centres can be quite expensive though, but they are popular because any bias towards maybe internal candidates is removed as the tests are carried out by impartial experts. And using a range of tests give more information about the candidates, so they should improve selection. Time can be saved as large number of candidates can be assessed at one time. It's more meaningful, complex and work-based tests that can be conducted as they've got the time and the resources available compared to when you've got a time-limited interview. And you might be involved in things like group exercises, like I said, team building, you might need to give a presentation on something, and you're probably being judged as well when you're on breaks, having lunch, coffee. How do you interact with the people around you? So, short lesson this week, we've managed to get to it, but we've got a couple of tasks that we do need to do. So the exam style questions that were in the middle of this lesson, we will have them to take part in. There is a very short M&S case study, and it's on a PowerPoint slide, and there's just one question at the bottom that I need you to answer. That'll be posted up on your assignments as well. And we've also got the personality test, and I've posted that up, and I've also posted up what my results were from the personality test to see how they maybe compare with you. Are we similar types of people? Are we totally opposites? So have a go at your assignments for this week. Again, any questions, please let me know. If you would prefer to have the actual PowerPoint of these recorded lessons instead of watching the YouTube video, let me know and I'll send that to you, or I'll start uploading them onto Teams. I just don't want to overload you with too much information. So thanks for listening. Remember, please update your notes on all the selection information. Go to BBC Bitesize. Those notes are great for you. And also view the Bright Red website that we made an account on as well, because they give you all great information too. Thanks again, guys, and any questions, let me know. Assignments will be up on Teams. See you later.